Come and shoot the breeze with myself and guests as we deep dive into some topics that may just pin your eyelids right back. Awesome. Well, welcome everyone to another series of Shoot the Breeze with me, Mandy Horton. And if you feel prompted to subscribe to my YouTube channel, I would love that very much. So just make yourself at home there and go back over some of these kōreros that I've had with others around the planet on different topics. So I'm really keen to have this chat today with Carlene Hereora. So welcome, Carlene, and thank you for saying yes to coming in.
No worries. I was happy to do this. Like I said earlier, it's been a while since I've done an interview, but I think we're at a time now in space and time where I think we're kind of putting the pedal to the metal a little bit harder than we were the last 3 to 4 years. So very happy and grateful for the invitation, Mandy. Thank you.
So welcome. And just for those of you who don't know, I've been following Carlene for quite a few years, particularly through the COVID era, where we were all in this freedom revolution we were trying to bring in and still are in many levels and many ways. And I work in the Wairua space, so for me it was all a spiritual, energetic thing. I wasn't out on the streets with placards and stuff like that. I was working individually with my clients and people that were coming to me who were finding it all a bit overwhelming. So that was my role in it. But your role, Carlene, was absolute. You step right into a really huge leadership role then, and the following that you had was because, for me personally, I felt this absolute genuine heart from you, and you weren't in it for the accolades, or the ego wasn't running you and ruling you and pulling you into it. It was really your heart that was calling you, and I know you follow this great creator. This is who is your heart, and I get that. And so for those of us like that, we fill those spaces, don't we, that we get called, and there's no questioning it. You just have this knowing that that's actually what I'm meant to be doing, and you just go with it, and everything in that space and time with those sorts of callings just comes into play. It just falls in. So I watched many people around the globe actually following you and coming into your kōrero and your leadership in that time. But behind the scene, you also in another journey, weren't you, that had started up with this beautiful work that you're doing now, this mahi that you're following, and that is to help free children from sexual, ritual abuse, isn't it, too? There's a lot of ritual abuse going on in the sexual trafficking with the children. And if I'm, correct me if I'm wrong here, but I think it started, wasn't it, by following or uncovering a ring, particularly in Northland. Yeah. So that's when I came into that part of your journey as well. And it was like, wow, there was no surprise because, we know the stuff's going on out there, but actually right under our noses too, a lot of the time. So Carlene, tell us about this particular journey, because it's really where your heart is now and what the biggest mahi that you're doing at the moment. So tell us about that and how you got into this. Like how did it all unfold?
Sure. Firstly, I just want to say thank you to all of your followers and subscribers who will tune into this. Very grateful for the platform. Very grateful for us being brought together in such a time as now. And I want to say thank you very much. And just for as we go through, it's really important. I put out a trigger warning just in case we do have survivors that might
Yes.
somewhat come across this page, because somewhere along the lines in this interview, the scope of what I do does cover child sex trafficking, organ harvesting, blood harvesting, fragmented DNA harvesting, fetal tissue harvesting. I'm an advocate for this atrocious abortion, against this atrocious abortion legislation we have in New Zealand.
Yeah.
Also advocate against the gender ideology being forced into our schools. And my main stance really has been to be an advocate around satanic ritual abuse. So just for future reference, just a trigger warning.
You know,
Um,
that there, just that there, you know, that's huge, isn't it? And it's so bloody dark, like actual. And what we do know though is that this has been here all the time we've been living on this planet and other lifetimes as well in this planet. And it's now really that it's time for this to be uncovered. And I just put my hand up to you. Honestly, it's like high five to you for diving in here and carrying this because it's really, like you say, it is a trigger warning to people. I know myself, I was like, oh, where are we going to go in this corridor? And, you know, and I might need to do some processing after this, but I was ready. I think it's time and good on you. So, yeah, sorry, carry on.
I think it's really important because this all began for myself and my partner back in 2020. We took in the family that this ended up happening to because they were homeless, family of six. Absolutely superhuman mother who was doing it all on her own. A father who had suffered massive head injuries from motorbike accidents and career in rugby league. A 20-year-old daughter. She didn't actually come and live with us, but she had gone through her own violations as a child and was still recovering. Our 15-year-old girl, who at the time when they came to us, absolutely whole life ahead of her and just full of life and full of love and light and all of these things. A 12-year-old boy, autistic and ADHD, 9-year-old boy with peanut allergies, and a Hunter was 5, I think, at the time when they came to us, who suffered from severe ADHD and medium to high autism bracket. So very, very somewhat dependent family on the mother.
Yeah.
And so that was in January of 2020. They knocked on our door for help. And of course, I did not have the heart to turn them away. So we took them in. And through learning about the family in the first few weeks, they had a family friend who had been living with them for quite some time. And I saw red flags straight away, I guess, in regards to his behavior, especially towards the 15-year-old. And concerns were pretty much raised straight away with the mum, even though none of us knew each other. I
Right.
still duty bound to just say, "Hey, look, ma, this guy's a bit too clingy." But what he had actually done was groom the mother first. He
Oh,
groomed the in gaining her trust because her workload was so massive with the tamariki and their special needs. She was actually doing 3 runs of school a day in the morning and 3 runs in the afternoon, as well as taking care of the shopping, taking care of the household duties, taking care of her husband. So he found a way to sneak into her life first and say, "Hey, look, I'm happy to go and do your shopping for you. I'm happy
mm,
to do the dishes. I'm happy to do the cooking. I'm happy to take the kids to school. I'm
mm.
happy to take her to school." So that's kind of how the grooming began for the mother. And it wasn't until afterwards that she recognized, shit, this is actually how he infiltrated my family, was he infiltrated me first.
Wow.
Um, she took that really, really hard, considering what happened to their 15-year-old girl.
Mm,
So I think it got to about the 1 month mark, and this particular night towards the end of everything, he had kept her out all day, all night. The mother was panicking, hadn't heard from her. Um, and I was starting to get a bit of anxiety because in my mind, these red flags were going off.
mm.
So I stayed up this particular night, and sure enough, about 1 o'clock in the morning, he arrived home with her, and he had to carry her into our home. She was absolutely legless. Um, I can't say that it was drunk. because at the time there were too many things going on that led me to believe that something's really wrong here.
Yeah.
Um, and I actually caught him trying to administer some kind of liquid substance out of vials that he had kept in our fridge. And that's when I knew I had to take action. So I had been gathering evidence and taking notes and things like that of timelines, because I just felt that the inner me was screaming like there's something going on here.
Mm.
So I started investigating, I guess, and keeping my own notes and keeping track of things. And then it was the next day, her whole demeanor. She was a beautiful girl, still a beautiful girl. But she went from being this, I know what I want in life. I know where I'm going in life. I love my life, regardless of what's on in my family. I adore my brothers. I love my mum to bits. And my dad is the king of all kings.
Right.
To 24 hours later going, F the world, get out of my face, stay the hell away from me. I'm not going to school. I hate the world. And I'm just going to lock myself in the room 24/7. And it broke my heart to see that all play out.
Mm.
And then I guess it got to the bang on the 1 month mark they had been in our home, and I called a meeting because we had been approached by some locals in regards to his behaviour. So I called a secret meeting with some of the locals, including the in-laws of the oldest daughter, who also had concerns, and just called a family meeting, and he was none the wiser to what was going on. So everyone arrived at our home, and I went to go and get him from the room, and I said, look, these people really want to talk to you about what's going on with their daughter. Well, he went straight on the defense straight away.
Mm.
And my partner at the time was comforting our 15-year-old girl and just encouraged her, we're all here for you. We need to fix the situation, and we can only do that if you tell us what's actually going on. Um, and it all came out. She shared with us what she could remember, but she had a lot of blank spots because she had been gone for 2 days with him. So it
Right.
was in those 2 days, he took her throughout Northland as far as Kaitaia, Kiri, Kaikohe, Kawakawa, and our hometown at the time, Paihia. And he sold her all 5 times to 5 different men. Um, and he recorded it. He recorded it on his phone. Then he had uploaded it to porn sites, and um, it wasn't until the investigation actually came. We rang the police straight away once all of that came out. He tried to do a runner, and there was a few of us who followed him on foot and managed to apprehend him and hold him in custody until the police actually got there.
Wow.
So I managed to get a hold of his. We knew he had her school laptop.
Yeah.
So I managed to get that, which was locked. So used my small knowledge of technology to get into that, and to view the content that he had shared. So by that time, the police had showed up. He had been arrested, taken away, and the very next day, we had retired detectives who were locals in our community show up on our doorstep and spent 3 weeks with us in our home, going over forensic evidence. Like they took things from our home to have them
Yeah.
DNA tested and things like that. It was horrible. But it was through the phone and the laptop that they were able to trace the hub of the syndicate he was working for.
Wow.
And the syndicate ended up leading to Melbourne, Australia, where it was being administered by a 26-year-old woman. So they sent in the CIB in Australia and rescued 3 children from that particular area. The youngest being 2 months old, who was being trafficked 6 times a day.
Wow.
And then through all of that information, it led to the bigger syndicate, which was being run out of San Francisco. And the last we heard, once it went to the FBI's hands, the last we heard is there was over 40 children within that syndicate.
Wow.
We thought it was just a man possibly having
Yes.
molested or raped a 15-year-old to breaking out into this international child sex trafficking ring. And my whole body went, what the F is going
I
on?
reckon. Yes. That would have been shocking.
So
Oh
I
my
guess
God.
that's a nutshell of how I got into this journey was just through our own personal case and experience. And to think that that was horrifying enough.
Yeah.
And then we went to lockdown in March. So 1 month to the day of us calling the police in, we went into lockdown. And then they shut down all the services that we needed. They shut down all the services that this 15-year-old girl needed. They shut down the services that this family needed. So my partner and I quickly had to learn how to become psychologists and psychiatrists and counselors, not only for our girl, but for the mother and father who were absolutely destroyed and blamed themselves for not
Yes.
not knowing, but he was so good at what he done. But to convince them otherwise, it wasn't happening at that time. So we had a really broken household with absolutely no external help. So we kind of had to all help each other through it together.
Yeah. That would have been difficult. And new skills coming on board, eh? Like,
Yeah,
new
I
skills.
think as a bartender, because I'd been in hospitality most of my life, and I love being a bartender because you counsel so many different people. So
Mm,
looking back at my life, I was already being prepared for that particular
right.
moment. My
Yeah.
whole life flashed before my eyes, and there were multiple moments where I went back and went, okay, that's why that happened.
Right. Yeah, yeah.
And okay, it's like so many things throughout my life happened that led me to know that I was being prepared for this divinely,
Mm,
through my ancestors who raised me and handed down certain taonga to me and all
yeah.
these things. My life made sense throughout that craziness. As gross as it was, my life started making sense.
But it's that thing where we know, and I know I learnt through many trials and tribulations in my life and the mahi that I do, and how that all stacked up for what I do and helping and assisting people in humanity now. So I get that, and I always used to think, I used to get told that you're never given more than what you can cope with, or what you're strong enough to deal with. And I used to think, really? Because there were times when I used to think, shit, am I going to be able to deal with this? Like actual. But you do, and there's just this, and it's that calling, it's that inner knowing that keeps us in there, that holds us tight and really makes us realize that, well, whatever it is, it's a strength that comes through in that knowing. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think, as we moved through, once the investigation was finished and we'd kind of started coming out of all the lockdown stuff, is when they started the court proceedings. So we didn't, this happened in February. We pulled the plug, February 16th. We made the phone call of 2020 to the police. Took them 3 weeks to do the investigation, but we didn't go into court until August of 2020. And
Oh.
this is the real fire was set inside me because I got to see the injustice of our justice system. I got
Mm,
the the non-participation of sharing and raising awareness by the media, and then the sentences that we knew were on the table lit a massive fire in me, because for two of the men involved, especially where the videos were made, this girl's unconscious in the videos that were shown as evidence, and they were both looking at 10 years. But because of their I guess, their stature in the community, in each of their communities, they had a character reference written by a sitting MP at the time. And their sentence was reduced from 10 years to 1 year home detention and $1,000 fine. And I
wow.
thought to myself, what the hell is going on here? Every
Yeah.
man, that was the biggest sentence for these men.
Yep.
The other three got 9 months and 6 months home detention and $1,000 fine. And the main guy ended up getting 7 years. Now, he was looking at over 40 years because during the investigation, I had discovered all his identities. And he was utilizing 7 identities throughout his time in New Zealand, and each of those carried a sentence of 7 years alone.
Wow.
But all got reduced to 7 years. And trying to encourage our mainstream media who were part of our case, we had every representative from every network. In that case, none of them were sharing what was happening, and I couldn't for the life of me figure out why the blackout on this aware.
Yes.
Because for me, the biggest thing was letting my community know that this had happened so that they'd be more inclined to take better care of their children and who they're actually letting into their inner circles.
Yeah.
The media just complete blackout on the whole case. So that really revved me up. So we made the decision to go live ourselves because there were no suppression orders. We had not been told we can't say anything. So we decided to use Facebook. I'd never gone live on Facebook ever in my life.
Mm.
So I thought, okay, let's give this a go. Within 24 hours, they took it down 6 times. It had reached over 2 million views.
Wow.
And then it was just gone. But someone had screen recorded it and kept putting it back and putting it back up. So we were grateful for that. That was a Wednesday night. On the Friday, the head detective knocked on our door and said, Carlene, it's no good. And I said, get effed.
Yeah.
There's no suppression orders. There is nothing stopping me from telling the story. If anything, you should be telling the media to get the story out to the people. And if you're
Mm.
not going to do your job, I'll do it for you. And they couldn't do anything to me. There was nothing that they could hold me on. So they just had to kind of let it all play out, really. So it was just about awareness raising. All I wanted to do was raise awareness in 2020 and thought, that's it. I've done my part. I'm out of here. Until every survivor in the world decided to reach out to me and say, hey, this has happened to me too in our own country. And it broke me. It absolutely broke me that this was the world and the country I was living in. And I got physically sick twice, absolutely spewed my ring out from some of the stories I'd heard.
I bet. God, yeah.
For 3 weeks, I was under a blanket, bawling my eyes out, just, no, this can't be the world I'm living in. This cannot be happening to children. This cannot be real. This is only supposed to be in the movies. And why me?
Yeah, yeah. And wow. So where from there? What like so there's how do you get through the justice system with it being so corrupt? Like this is and we look at the global, we look at it now out there after the COVID era, even we saw how this media was shutting everything down and saying just everything was untrue. It's like there's this whole blanket of it out there, isn't there? And it's persistence. I get that. We have to be really persistent. We've got to just keep putting that new truth, the truth that people know hits them here and go, holy shit, I think that's true because I can feel that in my being. And so we've just got to keep plugging it, don't we? And that's the only way we're going to get anywhere in this world of creating something new from that really disgusting old that's had its time.
That's right. And I think for me personally, I came from a very professional background. I came from a academic background, and I've been focused my whole life on achieving what I thought to be great things. High achievement in academia. Um, Played every sport under the sun at a representative level, so kind of an overachiever, I guess.
Yeah.
Uh, and I had this brain. I have this brain that I have to break everything down to understand what it actually is, what the problem is, so that I can find a solution.
Yeah, me too.
With
Yeah.
the justice system, I had to do the same thing because I'd never been involved in anything of this scale ever before. Uh,
Mm,
and seeing the corruption so blatant, I wanted to understand it. So I started getting on the inside a lot more to figure out how did the law system actually work? What was it made up of? Who's running the show in here? And from all of that information, I could start kind of formulating a solution and how to
yeah.
deal with these things. But I got drowned out with the magnitude of testimonies that came through. So my focus changed from figuring out the law system or the justice system in order to fix it to helping my brothers and sisters. And the one thing they really wanted was for people to know, just know
Right.
that real, that this was actually happening in our country. So I said
Mm,
to my wife, let's pull out all our savings, let's get rid of the house, let's go move back in with our parents, pull our savings, and let's hire a camper van. I'll make us up some billboards and let's go and travel the country raising awareness about these crimes happening. And then I bought a megaphone and thought, okay, I'm going to be brave
yeah.
and stand on street corners with our billboards and made up some little information pamphlets, like real raw, rugged, no no finesse to it
Yeah.
whatsoever. I thought if I'm gonna do this, I'm gonna do this as me. I'm going to raise awareness how I think it should be done. And I guess I was operating in my ego then because my ego was angry at the world.
Yeah,
So
for sure.
I have to say when I look back at 2020 to who I am today, completely different human being, but in that time we visited 21 towns in 21 days, stood on the street corner in the main parts of these towns for the whole day, just yelling at the top of my lungs through a megaphone. I didn't have to yell. Handing out pamphlets, engaging in conversation with random people. And the majority of the people were just like, oh, you're crazy. This is not
Yeah.
happening. And that really peed me off.
Yep. I was
And
just going to say, I bet people thought it was absolutely crazy. It is so nuts that you do think, "Well, oh, what? No way, that can't be what's happening." But so many times I've heard it, because even I was like, oh, what? This is really out the gate. Like the child trafficking thing with the tunnels and all this. It's more the blood drinking and the ritual side of it for me that was like, but then it started, like a part of me wanted to deny it because it was too out there, too heavy, too dark, too heavy. I just was like, oh my God, I don't want to go there. But it's actually a thing. It's happening, and it's about time that. And this is why I was, keen to get you on Shoot the Breeze, because it's another platform. It's a different platform, maybe to many others. And it's like, well, okay, there's new people that'll hear this and they'll go, oh, what a lot of caca, and park it up. But and then there'll be more that'll go, okay, hang on, I need to know more. And they'll get it. Eventually people will get it. It's processing. It's too much for some people. Yeah.
Yeah, and I
God.
think that was one of the biggest things I got out of that first tour, I guess, was the amount of people who denied it were actually the catalyst for driving me to do the second tour.
Yeah, I
Because
bet.
in my mind, I'm like, I'm going to get you the second time around. I'm
Yeah.
not giving up on you. And I've planted the seed.
Mm.
And I'll come back around the second time and I'm going to water that seed. And then
Yeah.
hope by the third time you're actually on board. So because I have faith in people, I have faith in humanity. I have faith that we're all born with this innate thing in us that tells us what is right and what is wrong. And
Yes.
we just need the right medium, I guess, to activate it.
That's right.
So I wanted to be the activation for people when it came to crimes against children. It's
Mm.
all I cared about. But I wanted to find my tribe. I wanted to find those who were already in this. I wanted to find those who were willing to step out of the dark with this information and say, no, she's right. We're all here. We're ready to stand with her, and we're all going to move forward together. So
Yeah.
2021 was about me finding these people. So every year since 2020, we've done a hikoi around the nation, really. The first one was awareness raising. The second one was finding my tribe. The third one was networking at a somewhat professional level to find the right people to administer the vision that I had in my own mind of what care and protection of our children looks like moving forward.
Mm.
And sanctuaries became a massive part in 2022, where we needed safe spaces because survivors were coming forward more and more. But where do they actually go? Where can they go that is safe, secure, provides them food, shelter? It's not going to cost them a damn thing, and they have people on site who are skilled in the, I guess, in the esoteric healing realm and
Yeah.
things like that, because it's so deep and dark. This is not surface level psychiatry or psychology we're dealing with. This was real to the core of people and the deprivations and damage they went through. We needed real healers come on board with this.
This is it, Carlene. This is the part that, you know, for me personally, that's what I do, and that's what I want to put my hand up for this, because I actually sent you a voice message quite a while ago about my processing and how I do this and what I've been doing and for humanity on the planet with my own way of working on the cellular. And I said to you in this message that, you know, you're going to need healers, or you had mentioned about healers and people to help, and I wanted to put my hand up, and I still do. So park that up and come back to that. We'll have a korero about that part. But for me, this is it. This is like when I see things, I see them in an ancestral way. So we're looking at ancestral lines. And if you look at what's been going on out there in a very just open way, in many lives, people have had a lot of incest in family. And that for me, when I track those back, if I'm working with a family around any of that, we're tracking it right back to the creator of it. And we've got to get that part of it before this here will do what it needs to do. So that's the part there. It's like it's huge. But if this bit here's only worked on, it's never going to get clear because there's too much behind it and underneath it that has to be brought up through that to be able to be cleared. So yeah,
So
exactly that.
with that, I mean, speaking from a personal experience point of view, I was 5 years old when I was first violated. Um, but I knew even at 5 years old, I had compassion for my perpetrator straight
Yeah.
away as soon as it happened, while it was happening, and even after it was happening, because in my 5-year-old mind, I thought, oh, maybe this happened to him too.
Yes, that's often how it is, eh?
And as I've looked back through my own family history, that's the case. This
Mm.
is all generational stuff, you know. So I think we've gotten to the point now where we're the generational cycle breakers,
We
and
so are.
I've definitely been that. I mean, I've been the big mouth in my family most of my life when it comes to these things. So I was not shy to pull people up. I was not shy to say, hey, you know, that's wrong. I was not shy to point out certain things that were happening in my family, and it lost me favor, but I felt great because I knew my little cousins weren't going to be going through that stuff again.
Mm.
And so, looking from my own personal perspective, the core of our issue was dealt with maybe 15 years ago, to the
Yeah,
point where a stance I made against another one of my perpetrators, who happened to be my grandfather,
yeah.
um, I just decided, nah, enough is enough of this stuff. And so I've been able to watch all my nieces and nephews, the oldest being 21 now, they've grown up in a safe environment because their grandparents got it right finally because they didn't want to get called out anymore. So it's just about being brave and courageous and saying, no, you can't do that. That's wrong. And I'm going to call you out when it happens.
Exactly. And we are those people. We are the ones, this is our back. It is, honestly, and changing the old, moving out of that old program. And I know when Nia Glassy, remember when she was, yeah, that hideousness. And I was running a centre, I've run spiritual centres monthly around Northland, and I was in Rawene and this month, and it was a regular stint. And this time that had happened with Nia Glassy, and I kept hearing my tupuna saying to me, you got to make a sign, say it's about, and it was about, we've all got a narc. They use the words narc because who, you don't be a narker, right?
Mm,
It's like you can't be a narker. And it was that word. And I thought, oh my God, I'm going to get punched in the head if I have that sign sitting out there, like you've got a narc now. It's time to narc on your whānau and whoever it is that's, doing this sort of abuse. It's time to speak up. And yeah, I did it. I did it. I had some really great reaction from it too. People were right on board. Oh, wow, narc. Yeah, that's what needs to happen. It was like, that was the key word. And this is it now. It's like, yes, there's more needs to be, no more people need to be knocked on. That's really what it is, and that's what has to happen.
well, we got to bear witness to, I guess, that being a really hot topic over the weekend in the community we live in Kaikohe. It was the first time our organisations, grassroots movements had got together over the last couple of months to organise a community wellness event, exposing and raising awareness around these crimes. And it was absolutely massive. The participation from the community was like
Beautiful.
everyone had been yearning for this moment. Everyone had been wanting this topic to come into the light so that they could feel brave enough to step up. And the amount of
Yes.
community members who grabbed the microphone when we had the open mic session, about 3 open mic sessions, the families that came forward to, they weren't saying specifically what was happening, but they were asking for help and saying, how do we deal with this situation and who can we go to if we're in this situation? There was a real sense of this
Yes.
whole community coming onto the same waka in regards to the care and protection of the children in our community. Like all
Yeah.
what the caretakers and providers and protectors, and how do we stop sexual violence and sexual abuse against our children in our community. And just such an awesome weekend. And I love
Yeah.
my community.
Beautiful. I so was wanting to get there, and I couldn't go in the final moment, and it was like I was so bummed out. And I knew that it was going to be such a great turnout. I was called up. I quite often get called, just called up, and I set up a day up in Kaikooi. I've worked out there quite a bit, really. And it was and I just had this call to put up a free healing day, so for mums and children. And we got Tanes too, so that was really awesome because it was like, that's sort of, I don't like excluding. It was like we should have just put family. But anyway, I was overwhelmed by the people that turned up at the door. There was just the screed of them trying to get in the hall and screed outside, and I was like, oh my God, we need a bigger venue, like, actually. And it was such a beautiful day, and that's what they needed. But what I noticed was they just wanted they wanted a hand on them. They just needed somebody to touch them, to hold them, to hug them, which is my thing. So everyone that arrived got a hug, and they'd gotten one when they left. And, it was just a beautiful, beautiful time. And I thought, this is that they're hungry. There's
Right.
hungry for nurture, hungry for care. It was so blatant in my face. It was beautiful, absolutely beautiful. So yeah, I knew you'd have a good day. That was so cool. I'm glad.
Yeah,
Mm,
fantastic.
yeah.
And we're meeting up this Friday just to have a kind of a debrief because the community want this to be a regular thing, specifically around the topics that we were talking
Yep.
about, not just anything. They really want to keep it to
Yes.
this cover. So we're looking at a quarterly event within the community on the weekend, the Saturday, to raise awareness and create a space for people to come forward. And then the Sunday is just about us coming together and just kind of letting go of some of that stuff, and having fellowship and karakias and music just to really lighten up. So the template's been set. I think this community of Kaikohe is really going to set the precedence for what it looks like moving forward to
Yeah.
care and protect our children at a community level, not just a movement level or organizational level. This is everyone involved. Every man and every woman is going to be given the responsibility of kaitiakitanga of our tamariki.
Yeah.
Even if
Yeah.
you're not a mother or a father, you're still an auntie somewhere, you're still a cousin somewhere,
Yeah.
and as an adult, past a certain age, we have a responsibility to protect our vulnerable. So that's kind of the message we've delivered to our community, to all men and women,
Yeah.
regardless of whether you wear a patch, regardless of your race, your color, your creed. You were chosen at conception, that at some point in your life you were going to be given this duty and responsibility to be a
Mm.
guardian,
Mm.
and saying this is the time now, pretty much.
Yeah.
He's Our tupuna are ready, we're ready. We just need you all to jump on board and actually embrace this korowai and really honor it and be the best kaitiaki you can, and then hopefully that will ripple out across our region.
Yeah.
um, then as a region, we can then go out together and ripple it across the nation and then the world.
Mm.
And vision is worldwide. I really believe what we're doing in our mahi is global. Somewhat, if you ask some of my kaitiaki here at Te Rako Oki, they want to go off-world as well.
Yeah.
Because how
Beautiful.
far it all goes, we're not restricted in our thinking to just what's in front of us. The
No.
universe is vast, the energies are vast. So I think we have to start thinking that way.
That's beautiful. And I love that you've started in a sense the template in Kaikoi, because like I said, I've worked up there a lot, and I worked with the group of wahine that were principal and teachers at the Kaikoi Intermediate School. And I do readings, and then I also clear entity energy stuff, that sort of thing. And in this korero I was having with them, not knowing what their background was, where they were working and all that sort of thing, they were just one by one they were coming in, but I was getting the same sort of picture, and I thought, and it ended up I was sitting with the principal. I didn't know she was, but and I said, man, there's like this energy at this place that you're all gathering. There's heaps of kids. It's like there's lots going on, but there's this entity there that's pulling them in like a pack. One gets told to stand up and go to the principal. I said, five others kids will stand up and go, well, I'm going too, that sort of energy. She said, oh my God, that's exactly what's happening. And my korero was around the P energy and what was happening with the children, with the energy of meth and how it affects our kids and those living in the home, and what the principal role of the children is to keep the energy, they're energetically, spiritually working on energy in the home and trying to keep it clear. So they're not sleeping well at night, they're getting disturbed by entities and energies that are coming in and all that. And so I went to the school. I said, I need to get my hands out there in your bloody school. And she said, yeah, come on then. So we all went out to the school, and I did my haka and things, and it was all cleared out. But what I could see and what I got from the 2 days I was up there doing this, Mahi, was how many strong wahine were in that community that were underneath all this other stuff that was going on. They were holding this fort, man. They were staunch. They were for the tamariki, like totally for them. They were absolutely these strong, strong women. And it was like, wow, there's this cool community in there that is trying to raise more of themselves up, because they were trying to put together other things to come in, like community stuff with the youth, younger, like teenage, that type of group. And it was just awesome to see, really, really awesome. And I just was blown away, to be honest. It was like, wow, this is really cool. And I knew that that would just keep going because they were strong. They weren't going to give up. They were going to keep going, and that it would create more of that effect in there for the community. So yeah, awesome.
Yeah, and that's exactly what's happened. I think it was 3 months ago, December, sorry. In December, we were invited to be a part of a gathering called He Korowai o Kai Kohe Kohe, which was very, very strong woman who had foresight to see what was coming down the pipeline for our
Yeah,
community,
yeah,
and underneath it all, they knew that this corporation had big things in plan for Kaikohe, and they were not having it. So
right.
they a community event to really find out who's who in the zoo, which organizations in this community are for the people, which grassroots movements, which government entities are actually for our people.
Yeah,
So we showed out for this event, and it was woman-led, so strong, these
no
women.
way.
There was seven in their original core team, and then we were quickly invited into that circle. So it is very woman led. It is very wahine toa led. And I
Mm,
think men are kind of like, shit, man, we've got some work to do, fellas.
yeah,
Because, and I really think that comes down to when people talk about the shifting of energy. We've been in a patriarchal system for thousands of years. And now I'd like to think it's our nannies that have gone before us are kind of helping on the other side, going, okay, now it's time to bring the matriarchal lines back,
yeah,
bring back that mother nature kind of
yeah.
energy, that nurturing energy, because we've been so um
Hardened, eh?
hardened, very much so. So our nannies are coming back through. They're a big, massive part of my spiritual journey, my
Mhm.
spiritual awakening. Is very, very matriarchal line I come from. So all of those things are now coming back into play and awakening things in me. So I'm trying to find my sisters and going, are you ready? And I get to the door and they're like, oh, where you been? Where have you
Yeah,
been waiting?
awesome. Oh, that's so cool. And it is the divine feminine is definitely rising in all of us, coming in that strong sense of strength. But also, I think we've always had that, Carlene? I think we've had that masculine in us. I know I've been very masculine and feminine there, but it's like that's helped me to stand strong in times because I knew I was here to break through old traditions that didn't work anymore. And like we say, it doesn't do us any favors along the way, particularly with our family and, friends sometimes. They don't get us, and it's going against the grain. We're swimming the opposite direction to where everyone else is sort of just moving or flowing with that pull, that leadership that's not where we want to go. So
Right.
it's a big mish. But yeah, and what I'm loving though, seeing is this divine feminine. It's like I'm seeing it working on the men. And there's a
Yes,
lot of men now that are really softening, eh? Like they were hard men, but they're now softening. And I'm really loving that. And I'm seeing how they're now actually standing beside us. Like
yes,
before, we were protecting ourselves from them. Now they're actually coming in, they're standing beside us, going, apologizing, even recognizing that yeah, we're not talking right and wrong, but that they're now doing something different with this, and it's a beautiful thing to witness. Mm,
sure is. I
yeah.
know of our male survivors, especially around satanic ritual abuse, they've been hardened so much through the trauma and the violations that they've gone through. One in particular that we're working with, he's moving into our sanctuary in the next few weeks or so. He's ready to step out because he's starting to recognize he doesn't have to be hard anymore,
Mm,
because he's watching us women doing the work, and he's like, well, if I step out of this darkness that I'm in and into the light, I can help other men, to say, look, it's okay to come forward. So they have their place. We've all got our place. It's just I think we're just coming back to those places now.
yes,
So
yeah.
I'm excited for what's to come for our male survivors.
Mm,
It's encouraging them to know, because shame is a big lot of what's holding them back. They're too ashamed to come forward and say that these things happened to them. They're too ashamed to say that they were violated. They're too ashamed to say that they haven't done anything because they live in fear.
yeah,
So I like to think that we've done quite enough work out there that they're starting to see, okay, this isn't what God had planned for me. I've obviously gone through these experiences so I can help to make sure they don't happen again. So a
yeah.
lot of men survivors are starting to come forward now. So I'm
Mm,
really excited to see how that all happens for our men.
yeah, that's beautiful. That's really, really beautiful. And so the satanic ritual side of things, like, there's obviously headquarters here, you
Hmm.
know, there's obviously like, are they getting more and more exposed though, Carlene, do you think?
Yes, I think the hub for satanic ritual abuse in New Zealand is Havelock North. So
Okay.
Havelock is the home to a lot of our secret societies. The Masonics have their main home base there. The Golden Dawn, which is more for the women's side of satanic ritual abuse, are based out of Havelock North. So that's when it comes to the secret society stuff. The harder parts of satanic ritual abuse are in Catholicism. So Catholicism, the hub for satanic ritual abuse when it comes to religion, is in Wellington. And we've just come back from a case a week and a half ago. We were called to Wellington in regards to a survivor wanting to come out of where she was at. And she gave full disclosure into what's been happening within the religious sector. And we've
Right.
got satanic ritual abuse survivors waiting for sanctuary. Now, we've been operating with a very, very small team in regards to this, and our sanctuaries that we've created are mainly in the north. So we're trying to establish a sanctuary in Wellington.
Yeah.
We've created a fantastic team of healers, um, administration team, and now we're just looking for live-in, I guess, kaitiaki, and just a bit of land because we're able to provide the buildings and things like that. So we're just looking for a plot of land where we can create them a safe space. Because
Mm,
experience, what we'd done in the past was we'd go and pick survivors up and bring them all the way to Northland. Now, just like anyone, when they're brought away, when they're ripped away in a sense from their what we call ukaipo, or their turanga waiwai, their the place they call home, it can be just as detrimental as the abuse that they've gone through because we're ripping them from their only connection they have.
mm,
So we've gone through this journey. We've had to really learn on our feet with how to help our brothers and sisters when it comes to satanic ritual abuse because it's just so deep. The trauma is so deep. So we
yeah.
have to keep it as close to home as possible. So that's been a part of our mission the last month is actually finding people in each region of the country to establish a sanctuary in each region. So we're not taking our survivors too far away from the only place they've ever known to be home.
Yeah. And is it correct that you've just been given some land for a sanctuary and was it at the East Coast, that Hawke's
Yep.
Bay area?
We were
Yeah.
given 4 acres of whenua right on the coastline. You've got the view of the whole Pacific Ocean, and then you've got the Mohaka River at their feet. And then there's walking tracks all around the area. So it's a fantastic place. It's just raw land. It's untouched. They actually start clearing for us this week. Uh,
Wow.
only two conditions. Number one, we will never own the land. And number two, any buildings that we establish on the land, can we please give the names of the buildings, the tupuna of that area?
Beautiful.
And those were the only conditions. But the whānau that gifted us the land, very staunch wahine. I think there's 6 of them in their whānau that are ready to rock and roll. So they already have the people ready to go. And then I'll be paying a visit back there in the next couple of weeks to go and sit with them in regards to what the template looks like in the restoration side of things. So wonderful things happening on the East Coast, and I'm so grateful to that whānau for saying, yeah, look, we really want to help.
Yeah, that was just like when I saw your lives in the land, it was like, oh my God. I was so
Mm,
excited. And the feeling was just beautiful. The actual land itself energetically was just wow, like
yeah,
beautiful.
so
Lots of
on that little I guess viewing, because they took us to two separate places
healing.
uh, for to have a look at the land, and we had our energy workers with us to do that mahi. And so the first one, they were running out the paddock straight away, like, not here, no, not here. Very,
Yeah,
very, very spiritual place, the first one, but even I could pick up that that was meant for family. It wasn't
right.
meant for trauma. It wasn't meant for any of that stuff, but
Yeah.
still a beautiful place.
Mm,
And the second one was the one you see on the video, by the ocean, just so
gorgeous, eh?
that it was just, yep, this is the place.
Yeah, it's a holding, eh? It felt like it was just going to really hold beautifully. Yeah, that's
And
so cool.
the positioning of it was very significant because it's the first place to see the sun.
Yeah, yeah, that's awesome. And do you know, many years ago, because I've been doing this for over 40 years, um, Tupuna told me that New Zealand was going to um it's like lead the way for the rest of the world in light, right? So on the light side. And then I was seeing like how I was showing how we were like the threshold, like when we come into onto marae and we're going into wharanui and things, it's like or even onto marae, there's the gateway, and that's for me like entering into the body of. Yeah, and so New Zealand for me, it was like Aotearoa was being shown to me like the threshold, that gateway that is leading the way for the rest of the world. And then in that sort of like months, year later or whatever, Māori were leading the way for the world and freedom. And it was like, oh yeah, well, how's that going to happen? And I never really got how that was going to happen. And talking with Tipo, Johnny Dillon and different ones we've had him on Shoot the Breeze, and I see what he's doing there, and what you're doing. And then I've got another lady, which you I'm sure will know, Tira Kura, Kingi
Yep.
Sayer. Yep. So I've got her coming. I've already talked with her, and she's coming in and her vision. And I'm looking at all of these, the U4, and there's like this or three, there's this coming together, and I can see now with tupuna how that was being shown to me over these years, and watching it all sort of start formulating in front of me. It's like, this is too cool, this is absolutely too cool. And it's just like we don't need to really do anything other than do what we know we're meant to do. That's all, because it's already got this momentum that's building now that I can feel there's a breakthrough. And through this last year, I know there was this huge light wave that came in, and I did a live about it, how it shifted us out of the old, like we were sitting in these pathways of old, we were still almost like there wasn't a green light. We were just sort of treading water, and we
Mm,
were still having to look into the past stuff and clear out, clear out, clear out. And then this big wave came in, which just moved us into this new timeline. And at the time, I couldn't see what that timeline meant and what it was looking like. A bit further down the track, I'm looking back, going on, now I see. And this is where we're now in a future timeline. So now what we can do is we've got the green light. It's like everything's going to go now. We're just going to really move. And I can feel it moving more and more energetically. It's going faster and faster. We will think it soon. It's just so in play.
yeah,
And that's
that's right. You're
this.
absolutely spot on. Something I've heard the last 4 years, and it took me a couple of years to really get why, was that the world was waiting for us.
Mm,
So in the first couple of years, I was so focused on raising awareness around, what we stand for. I kind of just parked it,
yeah.
and then I stepped into another part of my journey, which was the sovereignty side of things, because I was looking for solutions to
Yes.
the corporation. And then
Mm.
my papa came up and all of that kind of learning through the sovereignty walk. And I thought, shit, man, oh, they really are waiting for us. And
Yeah.
and then I stepped into Home Guard, which is something we could possibly talk about at another date. But I really want to touch on what you said there, that there was this, we got the green light to go, and I'd like to think that that happened on February 6th when we held a ceremony at Waitangi on Waitangi Day. In the background, Home Guard were presented 3 specific taonga that actually belong to the monarchy.
Mm.
We were
Oh,
pre-
yeah.
we were presented with Queen Elizabeth II's war sword, which actually belonged to Victoria when she started all the land wars here. We were also gifted the Plaque of Peace. The Plaque of Peace and the war sword were supposed to have been in a case on the HMS naval ship that is currently being manned or captained by the Rear Admiral David Proctor, which is I guess a token of a gesture of peace to the world, that while it's in its case, there is peace in the world.
Oh, well. Yeah.
Sword and Clark have not been in a case for quite some time. We're guessing since about 2012 that this corporation has been operating not in peace.
Mm.
And what we were also presented with was the 6-pointed star war flag, which is the sanction for all wars in the world. So those are now in our hands, and we presented them to the public. And since we done that, there are massive things happening in the background that Home Guard is now involved in. If people follow things of the nature of a worldwide military operation that has been going since 2017, Home Guard is now a big part of that, and I can tell you for a fact that it is true. I can
Yeah.
tell you for a fact that I'm a big part of what's going on, along with Admiral Gregory Cook. There's things that we can't fully disclose yet, but I can confirm it is happening. The
Mm.
green light has been given. There is some cleanups going on in our own country, and someday, very, very soon, we will be getting the call up to start doing things in order to clean up our nation in regards to mass arrests, which we have been sanctioned to do. So those have been now sanctioned nationally, internationally. So they're just things going on in the background just to formalize them, because one thing that we had to do was make sure we weren't coming off looking like mercenaries, that we
Yeah.
weren't that we weren't a Hamas of some sorts. So we had
Yes.
to do things both lawfully in LAW and in LORE to make sure that as we're being witnessed doing all of these things, we're doing them in honor.
This is it, Carlene. This is why I love what you do, and many others that are following that call as well are feeling it from heart. It's not about revenge. It's not about I'm gonna, it's like it's all of that. It's this coming from heart and knowing that this is what has to happen, and doing it in the best way possible, in the highest heart, not from that human revenge and hatred and all of that. It's done in love because it's had its call, it's had its place, and it's
Right,
taught all of us many, many, many things, and it's
right.
had its purpose. And when people can see that it's had a purpose and now the purpose is done, when we get it, it's done. So,
That's right.
yeah. Mm. Oh,
It's important for those that have probably just listened in on this part. The biggest part of Home Guard when it comes to the penal question is mercy, right?
mm,
We have offered mercy for these people who have done wrong by our people and the rest of the world, to come forth and show remorse for the actions that they done, because we know that some of them were probably forced to make the decisions that they made. Some of
that's
them were probably brainwashed to make these decisions. Some of them probably have completely no idea of
mm,
what they got themselves involved in. So a big part of Home Guard is to show mercy for those who are willing to be remorseful for their actions. And
Yeah.
then we that there are going to be some will scratch and claw at their illusion and deny what they have done. And it's
Yeah.
for those ones that we've had to really think about for ourselves. Are we willing to take a life when we're trying to save lives? Uh,
Yes.
and I think if we look forward at prevention of this ever happening again, some of those people will have to be dealt with in the most unforgiving way possible, but from a heart that's forgiving, you know.
Yes.
Um, don't want to have to do it, but it needs to be done for the preservation of our nation and for
Yeah.
this not to ever happen again.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And it's you know, for me, it's a whole big bubble. Like it's huge. It's a big, big bubble. And we're just going to go and put it over there because we don't need that anymore. We've got our own way of doing things that we want to do the way we want to do them. And I just love that this, like, I don't know, right from a very young child, I knew this time was coming. You know,
Mm,
I knew why I was here this lifetime, why I chose to come in this time was because of this. And I have to say, when the COVID thing happened, it was like, wow, that's a bit of a shock on how it's rolling out. It was like, I didn't know it was going to be like that. But anyway, we'll process that and just keep going. And, but you know, the stuff that I'm seeing coming out of all of that, and that was the sort of like the breaking of the boil,
that's
and now
right.
I'm seeing all this stuff coming up out of it that is just absolutely incredibly awesome. That is our new world is birthing. You can see it.
That's it. That's it. It's so exciting. It's so
Yeah,
exciting. Painful as it's been, it's already worth it to watch the changes that are happening. And I
yeah,
guess on the inside of specific information now, because we've been given full disclosure about what is happening in the background and having those things confirmed,
yeah.
I'm looking at it with different eyes again. You know,
Mm.
the my view of the world and keeping up with how they're actually rolling it out to people. I'm just like, man, this is the greatest show
Eh.
in the history. This movie is the
Yes.
best movie ever, but we are actually in it and living it and a part of it. And I'm excited for the final act.
Me too. Absolutely, me too. I used to get frustrated knowing this is where we were heading. I used to get really frustrated in my earlier years going, "Will you fellas hurry up?" It's like I wanted to just shake everyone and go, "Don't you know what's happening? Come on." Oh my God. And I mean, I birthed in 20 minutes. My head was out. Mum sat up, my head was out. I was like gung ho. I've been gung ho all my life. And it was like, just come on, hurry up. I want to get there. But oh my God, I had to learn patience. And Spirit said to me one day, "How arrogant are you to think you're the only energy in the universe?" They had to slap me around to get me to settle down and just wait, be patient. I was like, okay. Oh my God. But here we are. And it's just so exciting, like you say. And I know a lot of people don't see it as that, you know, and I know that's not honestly when we know what's happening and we can see ahead and know where this is steering us, it's like that is exciting. But I know a lot of people don't have that vision and are in it, and that's the people that we can help, eh?
That's right.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, Carlene, honestly, such a great, great pleasure to have this korero with you and to just you know, a big part of the chat shows that I do is about actually promoting those who are holding this light, and you've been holding this light for a very long time, and I just thank you for that, you know, because sometimes you feel like I've done this for all my life too, and it feels like we were bashing our head against brick walls at times. And it's really lovely to see those others now, like yourself, coming through and really stepping in, and because it takes some courage, because you do know that you're back to get against a wall in many ways, eh? And it's like, well, there's nowhere else to go. I have to do this. This is just what it is. And whatever the consequences, because there's often consequences. But
Oh yeah, believe me, in this journey, I have tried, I think, 3 times in the last 4 years to back out of this.
yeah,
And I'll tell you what, it hurt more to try and back out than it does to go forward.
yeah, yeah, I get that. I understand that totally. And it's a big mish. And it does feel lonely sometimes when you're on those sorts of walks, but there's a lot there with you now, eh? At
Oh
least
yeah,
all coming together. It's so
right.
cool. And anyone watching this, obviously, if there's more land around the place that anybody would like to give over for this mission, of course, absolutely, that would be amazing. And, obviously the tribes are all coming together in those communities, so that'll just keep happening. But
Uh,
beautiful. Much, much love to you and all of your family and whānau and everyone that you're working with. Just, yeah, much, much love.
ngā mihi atu ki a koe te rangatira, me te whānau katoa, for those tuning in. I'd just like to finish with a little whakatauki of sorts, just to all our whānau watching and just to keep going, Um, but this is I guess, a whakatauki from our Waitaha grandmothers,
Mm,
that I've picked up and I've had walk with me in the last 6 months of my journey. But it goes like this. Ka tuku e mātou o mātou inoi ki ngā rangi tūhaha. Kia tuku a mai ki tō mātou kaha, me te maia, me te mahi e mātou. Ngā mahi whakaora ai a mātou whānau me a o mātou hapu katoa o Aotearoa. I just like to ask our faithful angels and our ancestors and our great ones to lift all of our prayers up right through all the heavens, and send us back the strength and courage that is needed in order for the work that's still ahead for us all, and for us to make sure that we're walking to do this mahi to ensure the preservation of our people and our nation. So
mm,
thank you, me. Thank you, everyone, for watching.
beautiful. Much love.